gal named Bronnie Ware left a high-profile career in banking to pursue a different career
Welcome
as a
to
palliative
Journey.
care
Super excited
nurse.
to have all of you here
You
today.
can imagine the whiplash of those two different careers, from going from the banking industry and finance and high pace to now caring for people in their last stages of life. As she got more and more into the profession, she started to realize through her conversations and through her relationships that what she signed up for and the reality of what she was doing were a little bit different. That being a nurse and being present in those situations was a little bit more than just fulfilling a checklist. It was a little bit more than fulfilling a to-do list. And she started to develop relationships with these people. She started to have in-depth conversations. She found herself in the role of a counselor sometimes, and as a comedian other times, and religious conversations and reflective type conversations. She started to realize that what she had signed up for was a little bit different as she engaged in these scenarios. So she started to journal her findings. She started to journal some of the conversations, some of the moments she was able to share with people, and eventually she published a blog. Does anyone remember what a blog is? Has anyone ever read a blog before? She posted this blog in 2009, and over just a couple years, it had over 8 million reads. And the blog was titled this: The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. She took that blog and expanded it into a book that sold over 1 million copies, translated into 30 different languages around that same idea, that same title, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. In it, she explored and she expands on some themes, some top 5 regrets, some top 5 categories that people in this stage of life reflected on their lives. And these regrets they expressed, these I wish, or I wish I would have or could have done X, Y, Z. I want to share the 5 regrets with you. I just want to ask you, though, are you ready? Because they're a little challenging. As I read them, I saw myself in my life in this list. Number 1, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself. I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had let myself be happier. These powerful regrets. These people in their later stages of life, they're looking in the rearview mirror and seeing these trends and seeing these realizations that, man, I wish I would have done X, Y, Z. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself. I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had let myself be happier. And let me ask you, what do you think led to those conclusions? How did dozens and dozens of people that she interacted with, how did they come to that? How are they able to see that? It's probably a lot of things: life circumstance, experience, right? The relationships that they had. Maybe there's a sense of loneliness or hopelessness that it's sent in. But I believe part of what's baked in those questions is this theme of perspective. Perspective. These people in their later chapters of life had a perspective that I don't have as a 30-year-old right now. There's learnings, there's reflections, there's conclusions that come in those later stages of life that would lead to that kind of thing. And it shows us the power of perspective. They're looking more at what was than what was to come. We start to see things more objectively. I don't know if you had an argument or a conversation or a conflict this week that the farther and farther you got from it, the more clear it became. Right? Sometimes a little distance, sometimes a little perspective helps us realize what is true and maybe sometimes what we missed. And these reflections, these regrets speak to that. The power of perspective. We just celebrated Easter Sunday a week ago. 7 days ago, we talked about the resurrection of Jesus, this reality that Jesus really lived, he really died, and he really rose again. And the resurrection is this perspective-shifting event. It's this perspective-altering event. If the resurrection of Jesus really happened, it means this, that everything he did was authenticated, and everything he said he was also has this stamp of validity. It's validated in the fact of this final, ultimate miracle of Jesus proving he was who he said he was in the resurrection. And as you read the rest of the New Testament, you start to see that the resurrection, that Easter Sunday was not just the end, but it was actually the beginning. It wasn't just the conclusion. It wasn't just the finale of the whole story. It was actually the beginning, and it was a beginning of a perspective shift he was calling people to live with. And as the disciples in the New Testament unravels, you start to see people that are living with their perspective. They're living with the truth of the resurrection. They're living with the Easter story, and it frames their life, and it authenticates what Jesus said. And part of what Jesus said was, hey guys, I'm not just going to raise from the dead. I'm not just going to go back to heaven. I'm actually going to come back down to earth. There's this event after the resurrection. It's called the Ascension, where Jesus returns back to his Father. But he says this, guys, I'm about to leave, but it's not for long. I'm about to leave. I'm about to go back to heaven, but I will come back, and it will be this ultimate uniting of heaven and earth, ultimate bringing in of my kingdom. It'll be this ultimate death to sickness, disease, and sin, and brokenness. Easter is great, but Easter was just the beginning of that reality. One of the things we see these disciples, again, they really believed like Jesus was telling the truth when he said these things, that he was going to come back and it would be this day that they should look toward and live toward. They lived with this reality. I want to sum it up in this statement. We read the New Testament, we see the sense of perspective they had. They lived like Jesus died on Friday, rose on Sunday, and could return on Monday. We see the disciples, if you read the New Testament, like these guys literally thought Jesus was going to come back any moment. When they went to Chick-fil-A, they said, I'm going to get a shake because it might be the last Chick-fil-A I eat. Like they lived with a sense of urgency. They lived with like this could be the day. This could be the moment. We should watch how we live. We should make the most. When they were in traffic and that road rage start to bubble up and it got warmer and warmer, there had to be a thought in their mind like, man, would I really want Jesus to return in the midst of me having a traffic fit right now? Like, is this the best thing to do? I'm going to just temper it back a little bit. When they had their best days and their worst days, they realized both were fleeting. And they lived with a perspective. Like, yes, Jesus, he died on Friday. I'm grateful for Good Friday. I'm grateful for Easter Sunday, but he's going to come back any moment. And I better get my life in order and keep it that way. They lived with a sense of urgency. And part of it was because Jesus talked about his return a lot. Jesus talked about this event of the second coming, or sometimes you see it in the New Testament, the day of the Lord. He talks about it a lot. And he doesn't just talk about it for us to try to pinpoint it on a calendar and to figure out when exactly in, and if there's conflicts in the world, does this mean it's it? And no, Jesus is not so much concerned with the event. He's concerned with how we're living as we wait towards the event, as we move towards the event. He talks about the end of the chapter. He talks about the end of the story, but he does so it shapes how we live in the middle. It's this perspective that he wants us to have. And part of how he did that, he told some stories. He told some descriptions of what that would be like. And I want to take you to one of those stories today, Matthew chapter 25. Matthew chapter 25 is one of the last chapters, the last conversations, the last teachings of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew, a life and account of the ministry and leadership of Jesus. And he describes what this is going to be like. He describes what's happening in his second coming, what's happening in this final return of Jesus when he comes and heaven unites with earth. He says this, verse 14, again, the return of Jesus, the day of the Lord, the final resurrection, will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Let me just define a little bit of things. Sometimes this parable is called the parable of the bags of gold, or sometimes it's often referred to as the parable of the talents. And talent was an allotment of money. It was an allotment of wealth. It was about 20 years' wages in 1 talent. 20 years' wages. So if you take really, really basic income in like North America, or more specifically West Michigan, that's about $1 million. Okay, so we read 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent, and you're like, man, that 1 talent guy, like, pity the fool, right? Like, must have kind of stunk to be him. No, this is large sums of money that each one of them, all 3 servants, are entrusted with. And talent is not like what you're good at, or like I can play the guitar a little bit. Talent is this allotment of money that Jesus is talking to. That's why sometimes it's referred to as the bags of gold. He calls them, he gives this measure of wealth. He gives this amount of wealth to them. He calls the servants and he entrusted his wealth to them, each according to his ability. Now, Jesus is going to launch into a story, the rest of this story. And Jesus is not doing this for a personal finance lesson. Jesus is not giving a TED Talk on cryptocurrency. Okay, Jesus is not like concerned necessarily with just money. He's telling them this story. He's telling you this story. He's telling me this story to teach us something about us. He's trying to give us a principle. He's trying to give us a reality. He's trying to help shape a perspective. So he keeps talking. Then he, the master, went on his journey. We see what starts to happen in it. The man who received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of these servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Some of us, that's a good parenting nugget right there. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you've not sown and gathering where you've not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. 3 servants, 1 master, 2 different responses. 3 servants, all entrusted with the measure of wealth, all entrusted with something. 1 master. Jesus is talking about himself. He's the master. 2 different responses. Let's look at the responses. To the 5 talent and the 2 talent, you see those words, good and faithful. Right? He says it 2 different times. Good and faithful. Notice that their faithfulness was celebrated, not what they were given was celebrated. Their responsibility, the master is trying to communicate, their responsibility is not what exactly they have in their hand, it's what they did with it. That they were faithful, they were good and faithful. In response number 2 with the 1 talent, he says wicked and lazy. So we start to see this contrast, right? Good and faithful, wicked and lazy. That word wicked could really mean twisted, warped, or mistaken. It says that like you missed it. You missed it. And here's what strikes me about the wicked servant. Here's what strikes me about the master's response. He says wicked, lazy. He's not condemning something the servant did. He's not saying, I can't believe you spent it on that. I can't believe you invested it there. I can't believe you put that to work over there. How foolish. That's not what the master says. He said wicked, lazy, and it's not a condemnation. It's not a rebuke. It's not a correction for what he did. It's for what he did not do. He zeroes in on what he did not do. We're beginning this collection of messages. We're beginning this series on Don't Waste Your Life. And I believe you're here today. I believe you woke up today because you didn't say to yourself, like, I'm just going to waste my life today. Like, hey, April 12th, 2026, it's a great day to just sabotage my life. Like, this is it. No, all of us, we want to live with purpose. We want to live with intention. We want to live a life that matters. And Jesus tells this story in part to say there's more than one way to waste your life. There's more than one way to waste your life. We think waste and we think spending and squandering and evil and selfishness. And yes, that's true. Like wasted it, like spent it where it shouldn't have been. But Jesus said there's more than one way to waste your life, and that's not to spend it at all. That's not to do anything with it. There's more than one way to be wicked and wasteful, and one is to spend it on things that don't matter and spend it places and waste it on places. The other, the master says, is to do nothing at all, to not invest it at all. And I'm struck by that. The master is not mad or rebuking him for something he did, not because he spent it all, not because he stole from the master, not because he maxed out the master's credit card when he wasn't looking. He's mad. He corrects him for hiding it, burying it, preserving it, and keeping it safe. One way to waste your life is to spend it on things that don't matter. The way to waste your life is to not spend it at all. To not invest it, to not move it in any direction. The servant thought his goal was to save the money, to protect the money, to preserve the money. Look what he says. He has this wrong perspective. He responds to the master. He said, "Master, I knew that you are a hard man." He has a wrong perspective of the master. Notice the master never affirms his perspective. He just kind of bypasses it. Like, we're going to talk about that later. I need to talk about a little more urgent issue. He has a wrong perspective of the master. Harvesting where you've not sown and gathering where you've not scattered seed. The disciples would have heard of this. Jesus actually says this earlier in his ministry, and he says it about who the disciples were. He said, you're going to go reap things and go gather things that actually I planted and those who gone before you have planted. So this guy, he has a wrong perspective of the master. So I was afraid. Out of a wrong perspective of the master, he lives in fear. Out of a wrong perspective of what's true of the master, he misses an opportunity. He lives in fear. And I went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belonged to you. He had a wrong perspective of the master that leads to an operation, to an emotion, to a mindset or perspective of fear, and he misses his role as the servant. Three servants, one master, two different responses. So the servants, Jesus is speaking to people like us. We're the servants. Jesus is the master. Jesus is the one. He's saying, again, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go on a journey. I'm going to go back to my Father, but I'm going to return. Jesus is the master. What are these talents, right? We talked about in this context, it's a lot of money. Jesus is not, again, interested necessarily in just money. He's not just interested in what you do with your money, with your dollars. Jesus is using this word talent to something that's entrusted to us. The talents are the things that are entrusted to us. You could define it this way. It's our time, it's our treasure, and our abilities. Time, treasure, and abilities. Notice, just like the servants, we all have a portion. We all have an amount. We all have a measure of each one of those. We all have time. We all have treasure. We all have resources. We have money. We have possessions. And we all have abilities. Jesus tells this story to help shift our perspective and to help invite us to see what he's given each one of us and what we do with it. The perspective shift. And you could summarize the perspective shift in this way, that life isn't a possession to save, it's a resource to invest. That life isn't a possession to save, it is a resource to invest. Again, he challenges and corrects, not because he spent it or wasted it or squandered it or invested in a bad opportunity, didn't get a good return. He corrects and rebukes and challenges the perspective of the servant who just saved it, who kept it neat and tidy and safe and hidden. See, saving is about minimizing loss. Investing is about creating gain. When I save something and I protect it and I keep it, whether it's my time or my treasure or abilities, I avoid risk. When I invest it and when I give it and when I offer it, I move toward opportunity. Saving is about preserving and protecting. Investing is about growing and multiplying and seeing a return. And let me just encourage you this. in the currency of the kingdom, in the way God works, when you invest your time, when you invest your treasure, when you invest your belly, there is not a bad investment. There's no bad investment when you invest it in God's glory or for the good of other people. When I invest my time, when I invest my treasure, when I invest my ability, Jesus is saying that's what it means to live as a steward. Let me ask you, what's the measure? What's the amount? What's the talent that's been entrusted to you? What's the measure of time? What's your capacity for time? What's your treasure? What are the things that you get to manage and steward? For some of us, it feels like a lot. Some of us, it feels like a minimal amount. What are the abilities you have? What are the skills? What are you good at that you're not just an owner of, but you're actually a manager and investor of? And how do you see those things? Jesus tells this story to correct a perspective. Say, hey guys, I'm calling you to not waste your life, to live with the end in mind, to live with the final chapter. And part of doing that is seeing your goal is not to conserve and preserve and be safe. It's to invest, to move toward opportunity. And here's the part of the passage just struck me that kind of rocked my perspective. It's verse 28. Jesus ends the parable and takes it one step further. He says this, so take the bag of gold. Take the bag of gold from the 1 talent who buried it, who kept it safe, who kept it hidden into himself, and give it to the one who has 10 bags. That's a lot of money, Jesus. That's a lot of resources in one. Are you sure that guy can handle it? You sure that's going to go well, Jesus? 11 bags go, 11 measures of that, millions and millions of dollars, all to that guy. And Jesus says, for whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. But whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. What does that mean? Whoever invests, whoever lives openly, whoever orients their time, their treasure, their abilities outwardly to other people, God has a way of multiplying that and blessing that and bringing abundance. Some of the wealthiest, most influential people that I've been in a room with or heard things with, sometimes they're the most generous people, which we often think the other way around. But God's saying when people live with an investment mindset, a giving mindset, I will bless that. Whoever has a lot because he stewarded a lot and stewarded well and invested it, I'm going to give more. But the person who saves and preserves and protects even what they have might slip away from them because they're going to miss opportunities. They're going to miss my resources. They're going to miss my blessing. Jesus said it actually multiple times earlier in his life and ministry. He said it this way as we think about our souls, our lives, the deepest parts of us. He said this, whoever wants to save their life is actually going to lose it. Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. Whoever loses their life, whoever invests their life for me, whoever gives away their life, whoever offers and invests their time and their treasure and the abilities, they're actually going to find it, and they're not just going to find it, they're going to find a different kind of life. They're going to find a different kind of satisfaction. Notice he says, all to the servants who honored, who invested, come share in your master's happiness. Come share in the joy of investing. Come share in the fruit of investing. Come share in the mindset and the perspective that it's mine and I've given it to you and I've given it to you to invest, because life isn't a possession to save, hoard, protect, keep neat and tidy until we pass on. No, it's an investment to deploy. It's a resource to invest. And when we do that, God has a way of bringing and returning and adding more. What's the measure of talent you've been given? What's the measure of time, treasure, and ability that has been entrusted to you. And how do you see that? They're preaching the sermon for me. It's good. Someone has your voice dictation on. How do you see those things? Something to preserve and protect, or something to give and invest? And believe and have a right perspective of the master, that as I give it, he can give me more, not so I have more, but that I can steward more and invest more, and be a conduit of more. The invitations from the passage, as you think about the master and the servant, are a little bit like these invitations right here, two of them. To surrender it fully, to see the master correctly, to see what the master has entrusted to us fully, to surrender it to him. God, what I have is yours. My time, my treasure, my abilities, they're ultimately yours. To surrender it fully and then to steward it faithfully. To surrender it to him fully and to steward it faithfully. As I seek not to just keep it and preserve it and keep it unharmed, but to invest it and trust that he can do more with my investment than I can with just saving and protecting, preserving. You want to know the hardest one for me? Okay, I won't share it. Just kidding. Time, treasure, ability. It's my time. I like my alone time. And I'm not always the most social person. But one of the things I've seen God use is as stepping into opportunities to connect with different people, to open our home, to have conversations, to meet with people. Oftentimes, I'm blown away, one, by people's stories. People maybe I've been around for a long time, and you have a little more time, you invest a little more time, and you see, man, I had no idea that was true about that person. I had no idea that God would give me that nugget of wisdom or that nugget of encouragement from that person. As I invest that, as I move that, not just hoard it and keep it neat and tidy and keep the calendar perfectly clear, right? As I invested that, as I moved and try to invest that more, God can bring a return. He can bring an abundance. He can bring more and more talent that I never would have expected and I never could have forced. Maybe for you it's not time, it's your treasure. Maybe you're like, man, what I have, as big or as little, it is mine. Mine. And I might give to the Girl Scouts, I might give to Journey, I might give somewhere else, but like, man, you asked to use my things, or you asked for generosity. No, that is mine. And when we do that, we limit ourselves to our resources. We limit ourselves to what I can provide, to what I can do. Maybe it's your abilities. Maybe it's like, man, I'll write you a check, or we can hang out, but I'm not really going to invest my time or my energy, my abilities, what I'm good at, my skill set. That's for me. That's for my career. That's for my success. That's for my name, not yours. I've just seen over and over again in the parts of my life where I've stepped into those, in the parts of other people's lives where you see them invest. God has a way of bringing a return, of bringing a blessing, of bringing fruit and growth that we never could force on our own. To surrender it fully and steward it faithfully. So let me ask you in the form of a question. What is God inviting you to surrender more fully? And what is he inviting you to steward more faithfully? What is he inviting you to steward more fully? As a servant, as a manager, not as an owner. As an investor and as a grower, not just a saver and a preserver. What is he inviting you to surrender more fully and steward more faithfully?